Green tomato toaster strudels. This might be one of the best things I've ever made. Stick with me, it sounds weird, but I promise you these are so good. I have never made a pastry outside of a pie, so I was a little bit intimidated, but I had this idea and I really wanted to give it a try. Last year I made a green tomato pie and it turned out to be one of my favorite ways to use up unripened tomatoes at the end of the gardening season. But I'll have a bunch of recipe details down below if you're interested, but for the filling I did something very similar to what I did with the green tomato pie. So all I did was I washed my green tomatoes, I skinned them, and I chopped about 1.5 cups worth, and I placed that into a skillet where I added 1.5 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, 3/4 cup of sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, pinch of salt, and 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch. Oh, I also added about half a tablespoon of butter before I added those tomatoes in, but I cooked everything down until it was really, really thick. I didn't want any extra liquid to be present because I didn't want anything oozing out of the sides of the toaster strudel. So I really, really cooked these down. It took about 30 minutes or so. And then once it was fully cooked down, I let this cool fully because I wanted to keep the pastry as cold as possible. While that was chilling, I went ahead and did the rest of my steps for my pastry dough, which was just a bunch of different folding, which ended up being pretty easy. Honestly, I was really impressed on how these turned out. So I rolled out my pastry dough to 1/8 of an inch thick and I cut out 6 rectangles. I placed around 1.5 tablespoons of my tomato mixture in the center of 3 of the rectangles. When I chilled everything, it almost looked like I maybe candied the tomatoes. I was almost wondering if I got them too hot, but it ended up being just fine. They turned out absolutely amazing. I placed these in the fridge once I crimped the edges to cool more before I did an egg wash, and I placed them into a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes. When everything was done baking, I got them out and I placed them onto a cooling rack, and that is when I made some icing. I just used some powdered sugar and I want to say like 1 or 2 tablespoons of milk and mix that together, tossed it into a little Ziploc baggie so I could pipe it on, and I'm telling you, these turned out way better than I anticipated, and that is how I made these